Alright guys, sorry about that. We are back and back at this job. Anyway, as I was saying, you can see the trees changing to a little blue drop icon as we go by. And I didn't really mean to stop the stream. I meant to pause the stream, but it stopped. So those of you who are watching this afterwards in the archives, it is going to show up as two separate episodes, and I apologize for that. That's just the way that it's going to be. Alright, come on. This will complete this job as soon as we get to the end of this row. Really easy. It's a nice game. You know, I won't say the graphics are not stunning. It's not something that I look at and say this is like the best graphics or this is really modern graphics. It does look a little dated. But that said, things work, which is, you know, that's a good start. And I can get by with the graphics not being outstanding if the game has other stuff to offer. Which this game does have other stuff to offer. It has lots of different... If you hold the keys just a little too long, the steering goes really quick. It's like slow to start, but then adjusts really quickly if you don't let off. There are lots of different farming modes and things. There's other stuff to do. Even within this one region, you've got crops you can farm, you've got animals to raise. Just in a short look around the map, I've seen cows, pigs, chickens, and rabbits. Alright, hold on. This seems like the steering on the keyboard has gotten messed up. Okay, let's save in a new slot. See if that actually does work. I'm afraid what happened was that when I started this free farming mode to check some things out, I think I saved it over. So I do want to put that out there because I think maybe that was my fault and not an effect from the update. I can't be sure of that, but I don't. Yeah, this is set to the minimum, so. So although I think the steering is much improved, now it sounds like the sound is super low. What is going on here? Sound is normal. Anyway, although the steering is quite improved, I think maybe if there's like a curve for the steering, I think maybe that still needs to be adjusted a little bit. It is a little slower to respond, which I like. I'm not jerking all over the place. But like I said, if you hold that key down just a little too long, then you're flying off to the side again. So it's getting there. It is definitely getting there. Alright, so this is the field where we have to do some field work. It basically walks us through the steps to get a crop ready to harvest. If you read through the email, whoever it is that manages our farm for us, that kind of is helping us through this mode, guiding us, oops, I didn't want to do that. They took an order for a large amount of wheat. So to fulfill that, we have to plant this whole field in wheat and harvest it. And by doing so, we'll be able to fulfill the order. So that's what's going on. So we need to use, first off, the plow to get the field ready. So we start plowing. If you have not watched this game, these are definitely 2D plowing textures. It's not an actual 3D plowing texture. It looks pretty good. I mean, for a 2D texture, it looks like it is 3D, but there's no actual terrain deformation or changing or anything like that. If any of you play cattle and crops, sorry. If any of you play that, you know what I'm talking about. When you run a plow through the ground, it actually leaves a furrow, like a three-dimensional furrow that your wheel actually sinks down into, and kind of holds. It does actually help hold your tractor on course a bit. It's not perfect. You still have to pay attention. It's not like auto steering, but it does help a bit. Whereas this, there is no furrow. It's just one flat plane that I'm driving on that changes texture based on what I do to it. In that way, very like Farming Simulator, which is not a bad thing. I don't mean for that to be a knock. I also don't mean to keep comparing all these games, but it's a little unavoidable to compare these games. I mean, Farming Simulator is the reigning kind of king of the farming simulation genre. So I feel like anything that comes out is going to naturally get compared to it. Farming Simulator does a lot of things well, so if you can do things like Farming Simulator, that's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as you don't do everything like Farming Simulator. And this game and Cattle and Crops, it's interesting because the two developing teams have taken completely different... what's the word I'm looking for? They've gone at developing a better farming simulation game from two different angles. This game has built out the number of things that you can do. I think in the advertisement for it, or in the little Steam description or whatever it is, they say, it includes almost every aspect of modern farming. I think that might be a little bold of a statement. However, this does include more aspects of agriculture than I think any other game I've ever played. It's got numerous types of animals with chickens and rabbits and cows and pigs and maybe even others that I'm not aware of yet. Numerous different crops. Besides just your cereal crops, we know we have rice farming in Japan and coffee bean harvesting in Colombia and olive harvesting in, I think it's Italy. And then there's a Germany map, which I'm sure has something else that you can do that we're not sure about. And you also have potatoes. So there's a lot of different types of agriculture to get into that aren't, that, especially to the extent, is not being done in any other game right now. On top of that, you also have wind farms and solar panel farms. If you want, they do get called farms, so I guess you can lump them in the farming area. But you have those that you can purchase also to improve the profitability of your farm. Then in here you have greenhouses you can work on too. There's a lot. Orchards. So this game has taken that angle. Increase the number of things you can do. Allow people to get into almost any aspect of agriculture that you find out there in the world, which is pretty cool. And because they've taken that, I'm okay with the physics not being, great, like all that great or perfect, with the graphics not being stunning. I'm willing to, especially since this is the first time they've released this game, so I'm sure they will improve things as they go. I'm willing to give up a few things that would be nice to see that game offer all these cool aspects to it. Cattle and Crops, on the other hand, there's not a lot of stuff to do, at least not at this point. But what they do have works really, really well. The physics, I think, are much better. Now, one thing when it comes to checking physics, one thing I always use to do that is bale handling. So eventually we'll get to that point in cattle and crops, and that'll be one real clear indicator as to whether the physics are better than Farming Simulator or not. But so far when I've been playing, it feels much more authentic when you're driving the vehicles. So they've gone to the other aspect. The graphics look really good, the physics seem to be really good, but there's not a lot to do at this point. So, coming at it from two different angles. One of these days, we will get the perfect farming simulation game where everything comes together in one amazing game. Someday. And it may actually be Farming Simulator. So I know some of the guys that are developing cattle and crops were also modders for some of my favorite mods for Farming Simulator, which is interesting. But they do really good work. And they know Farming Simulation. They've been around it for a long time, and they know what they want. So I do have high hopes for cattle and crops. Pure Farming, I don't know who's developing this game, so I don't know their backgrounds, and I don't know what to expect from them. Although what I've seen so far looks pretty good, so I have to say I am pleased with what I've seen so far. Somebody is going to take all these aspects and put them together into like the best farming simulation game ever made. Eventually, it's gonna happen. I know Giants. I've already seen some screenshots and stuff from FS19, and a lot of you probably have as well. And they have done a ton of work to redo the engine, especially the lighting engine. So the graphics for FS19, if the screenshots are not just all doctored up to look pretty, the graphics for FS19 are looking stunning. That is one game where, so far what I've seen from the graphics, you look at it and you go, wow, that looks really good. Now, what has always bothered me about Farming Simulator is the fact that the physics seems to be so awful. They've gotten to the point where I can't really say it's so awful anymore, but I just expect more. Especially for a game that's been around for a decade in numerous versions. It still doesn't feel like you're actually driving the tractors. It feels like you're playing an arcade game, which is how this game feels at times as well. But with this game, my expectation is not to come in here and get super realistic driving physics, because there's other stuff to do. I'm more interested, I see this game more as a farming management style game where you also just drive the tractors. So I don't expect driving physics to be ultra realistic. Now hopefully they will get there, because that would just make this game even better. But with Farming Simulator doesn't do farm management well. It is a tractor driving game, is essentially what it is. It's not necessarily Farming Simulator, it's tractor driving simulator. But their tractor driving simulation isn't that great. It seems pretty good, especially in the newest versions where they supposedly have redone the physics engine. It seems like it is okay, pretty good, and been improved a bit. But then you go off and play something like more realistic mod, and you're like, wow, there's so much room for this to be better. And, I'm hoping that'll come down the line sometime as well. But as for this game, again, I'm very pleased with what I've seen so far. There's still room for improvement with this game, absolutely. It is not perfect in its current state, but it is in its current state working and pretty good. How many computer games are out there now that release and they're not even fully ready? They shouldn't even be released yet. This is happening so often in the computer game industry, and it drives me crazy sometimes because games are getting released in a state that, you know, at some points I don't even think would be called beta. You know, they're still in alpha state. There's no way they should be going out to external customers. But they're being released in that version, and then supposedly, you know, the updates are going to come to make the game fully functioning and things like that. But then, you know, half of them never do. So you pay money for a game, you pay full price for a game that's half done, and then, you know, you've got about a 50% shot whether or not they're actually going to finish it or not. That's the current landscape of computer gaming. And it is really, really frustrating. This game did not get released like that. The first time I got this game, which was on the day it was released, and started playing it, it worked. Now, there were bugs. Trying to change your graphics while playing the game caused the game to crash. Pretty much every time I exited the game would crash. But it saved my game. I mean, the save games worked, so it was just the game crashed, and I just had to like control, delete, force it to quit, and once I started it back up again, everything worked perfectly fine. So at least when it released, it worked. It was in a working state. The features were there. The full feature set was there too, which is something that you don't really see. Now, will they continue to develop things for this game, probably in the form of DLCs or something? Yeah, I would imagine they will. But when it released, it had full access to all of the features of the game, and most of them were working. The only feature set that comes to mind right off the bat that I know they've said we will develop this as we go is the ability to use steering wheels and pedals in the game, which is a big one. For a game where you're going to be driving a vehicle for the majority of your time in the game, the lack of ability to use steering wheel and pedals that's a big missing feature. But the rest of the features are there. I'm really, really excited to see how this game progresses from this point. You know, how is our farm going to progress? Are we going to get to the point where we go to another country and develop our farm in that country as well? Because that would be awesome. This is also the first fully functional farming simulation game that I have played with a story mode to it. Most of them, it's like, you know, hop in, start your farm. You either start with some equipment and some land or money, and you just kind of go. There's no real guidance. I mean, there might be a tutorial to make sure you know how to do what the controls are and how to do the certain things, but there's not really a story mode. And I really am hoping, and it does appear to be, that this is more than just a tutorial. This is actually kind of a career mode, which is, if that is the case, I will be super excited. We're almost halfway done with this field. This is a pretty big field. And we still have to seed it and water it. Got some work ahead of us. We're going to be going for a while in this live stream just to get back to the point where we were when we finished the last live stream. That's okay though. It happens. I forget exactly where we even ended the last live stream. I think we had completely finished this field. Well, we got into this field to the point where you had to wait for the crops to grow. And then I think we were off doing some other side tasks. I think we might have done a side task at the pear orchard, if I remember correctly. That might have been the lot where we ended it. I'm not sure. Let's go back and watch. Shows you how much I watch my own videos. Or how well my memory works. One or the other. Or both. You can hire workers in this game. We will probably do that at some point, relatively soon, just to see how it works. Once we get this field pretty much done, whatever, I think it's number 3, the field that we already harvested, that one will need to be reworked so it can be replanted. And at that point, I think maybe we'll try hiring a worker to run the plow at that point. Now I know, because I have tried it, the worker system is very very farming simulator-esque. You get whatever equipment it is your worker's going to use, you point them at the field, and you hit hire a worker. Which I will say, a little disappointed in that. I'm still waiting for the game where you can go into some kind of a menu or something and tell your workers what you want them to do. And, you know, if you need to, what equipment you want them to use, and they will go do it. And you can do it from anywhere on the map. You don't have to get the equipment set up for them. They're intelligent enough to go do this stuff on their own. You know, I'm picturing, like, if you're running your own farming business and you've got somebody working for you. That's the other thing. I would like to see actual workers, not just hiring somebody and this AI person hops into your tractor and goes off. I want to see, like, the same worker. I think back to Agricultural Simulator 2011. And they had this system where you hired certain workers, and then they developed as you used them. You know, if you had them doing certain tasks, they would get better at certain skills, and then they would work faster or, you know, be more effective, whatever it was. It's kind of an RPG element to the workers, and I'm still waiting for something like that to be present. And in 2011, this is back in 2011, it's now 2018, and no farming simulation games have, like, done that and tried to incorporate that yet. Now, granted, the only other farming simulation game is Farming Simulator, and I don't know, they like their worker system, I guess, so they just never have done it. But I was hoping this game would do something like that, because it's a new game, new developers, they're not stuck in their old ways. Like, do something new with the workers. The hired worker is always one of the biggest complaints for people in Farming Simulator. Like, we want better workers. We want intelligent workers. I should be able to, in real life, call up my worker and say, hey, go get the Zetter and the plow and go plow field 3. I shouldn't have to drive back to the farm, hook everything up for him, drive it out to field 3, and then say, oh, here you go, have at it. So I'm still waiting for that. And I don't, you know, unless they completely redo the worker system in this game, I doubt we're going to get it in this game. Cattle and Crops, I just saw an email come through. Cattle and Crops has an update that involves the worker system that's supposed to improve the worker system. That shows some promise of having a worker system like that, so we'll see. That might give me what I want there. A lot of times I wish UIG, or, you know, whoever was developing the Agricultural Simulator series, would have been able to do it, you know, a little bit better. Because even back in 2011, they had the game where you could actually develop your farm. You know, if you go back to when it was Farming Simulator 2011 versus Ag Sim 2011, there was actually a debate to be had there. Ag Sim worked. It still took a really good computer to run it, and even then sometimes it didn't run very well, but it did work. But it has so many elements that Farming Simulator didn't have at that point, and in a lot of cases still doesn't have at this point. You know, and like I said, you could develop a farm. You could expand buildings. You could You know, and there was a point to, because you could only fit in a certain number of tractors and implements in a certain building. It had workers that actually developed as you used them. You had the same worker and you had to pay them a salary. So there was incentive to actually use them because you were paying them whether you used them or not. And they got better as you used them. There were so many cool elements. Then AgSim 2013 came out, and so many cool elements in there that I've already talked about in some of the videos, so I won't belabor it, but it's like they were on to some really, really good ideas. They just couldn't execute it well. And I hope with this kind of onslaught of new developers coming into the farm sim realm, I'm hoping that some of them will grasp onto those really cool ideas and make them work. I think if you took AgSim 2013 and could just get the game to function and build out the rest of the game so it was actually a full game, you would have probably the best farming simulation game on the market. Now that was another one. It had tons of issues. There would be a lot to get it to that point, but the starting from nothing and being able to build up your farm aspect of it was just really cool. Being able to do so much by hand was just really cool. Maybe in this next version, I hope that Giants adds something to actually do with your hands. Now that we have the ability to manipulate objects by hands, make it something useful. Put a small square baler in the game so we can pick up the bales. Make bale stacking something that's actually doable. Even though you can manipulate objects by hand in Farming Simulator 17, have you ever tried to stack small square bales by hand? You know, it is an exercise in patience. It can be done if you're willing to devote a couple of hours to stack like 20 bales. Usually you end up rage quitting. So if they can implement some sort of system where that actually works, that would be great. And I honestly don't know what we're going to get from this game. I don't see this game incorporating a lot of those elements where I would call those physics-based elements, things you can do with the environment. I don't see the physics-based stuff being this game's focus. But I'm still curious to see where this game goes. This is another game. I think for what they have, they've done it really well. Minus a few key issues. Normally, let's see, I think the first time we played this through, right about now, I was on the second day. Most of the way through the second day. That's how different the time scale was. Right now, it's still only 9:30 on the first day. And we are almost done with this. I don't know how far we're going to make it with this stream tonight. I doubt we're going to get all the way back to where we were. I may have to catch us the rest of the way back up off screen. Just because, although they have added some new elements and changed things around a bit in the game, which I am super happy to see, we've already explored a lot of those elements, and the rest of this is basically repeating things we've already done. So, I think off screen I'll catch us back up to where we were, and then when we come back for the next stream, we'll be caught up. I'm not sure where I want to end this. Might have to end it with the plowing. I'm not sure that I want to complete the seeding in this stream. That's going to turn into a really long stream of repeating the same things. But yeah, I think that's what we'll do. We'll finish the plowing and we'll call it a night with that. That'll be a good stopping point. When we come back to see, this field will be seeded, irrigated, and we'll do whatever other jobs we need to do. I'm not sure what else there will be to do. Oh, I did want to... Well, I'll save that for the next stream. We'll go do that pear job again, because, you know, why not? And then in the next stream, I want to try out the worker. Last time I tried to do the worker, I could not get it to work. And I don't remember which field it was I tried it on. Might have been this one. That doesn't sound right. I think it was field 3 that I tried it on. And I just sat there in the field and could not for the life of me figure out how to work it, because normally if there's something that you can do, a little key pops up along the bottom of the screen telling you this is the key you hit to perform, you know, whatever action. And nothing was popping up to hit to hire the worker. And I tried hitting every key on the keyboard. I tried going into the menu system. We could not figure it out. Well, it turns out that there was just an issue with the workers, and I never really understood exactly what the issue was. It might have only been on certain fields or certain tasks. I don't know. But basically, it wasn't working right. So it wasn't that I couldn't find it. It was that it was not working right. So I'm curious to see whether or not they have gotten the worker fixed. Because any game like this, if you do not have a worker system that actually works, you can't really do anything. I mean, if we have to do everything ourselves, you cannot progress in farming. Last pass here. I do love the field status thing that comes up, though. That's awesome. It might be nice if you could hide it. So I can hide the menu, but I can't hide that. It might be nice if you could hide that. But, nonetheless, I do love it. And I do love that there's multiple steps you have to do, and it tells you where you're at in those. Just a really cool, well-developed system there that they have put together. That is the plowing. That gets us, I think, most of the way back to where we were after the last stream, since we lost our save game, which is unfortunate. So, and by the last stream, I mean episode 2. I know this is going to show up as 2 separate streams and 2 separate episodes if you're watching this after the fact, but this was all actually one long stream that I had to stop in the middle, so... Next time we'll pick up, the seeding will be done, the irrigating will be done, and we will pick up with trying to hire a worker, I think, for field 3, and that's where we will be. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream today. I hope you enjoy this if you watch it later on the live stream archive. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next stream.